Jack sat at the corner booth of a dimly lit cafe, his fingers idly flipping through the pages of his small, well-worn notebook. The scent of coffee and ink lingered in the air. But his mind was elsewhere, trapped in the space between details, searching for patterns where others saw only chaos. His pencil tapped against the table, sketching out a rough timeline of an old case. A habit. A ritual. Some people counted breaths to calm their nerves. Jack counted clues. Outside, the city pulsed with life. People moved in predictable patterns, unaware that somewhere, just beneath the surface, a crime was unfolding. Then, his phone buzzed. He flipped it over, eyes narrowing at the unknown number. Jack rarely received calls. Fewer still came at this hour. He let it ring once, twice. Then, finally, he answered. A voice, sharp and urgent. "Blackwood Museum, Vault Room, get here now." Jack sat up straighter. No introduction, no explanation, just a demand. But that was enough. His notebook snapped shut, the worn pages filled with cases long since solved. He did not need to ask questions. Not yet. The urgency in the voice told him everything he needed to know. Something was missing, and someone needed him to find it. As he stepped out into the rain-soaked streets, he felt the familiar weight of his pocket watch in his coat. The steady ticking calmed his mind, measuring the seconds between problem and solution. But this time, he had no time to waste. 1 hour. That was all he had. Jack moved fast, his coat billowing behind him as he hailed a cab. He knew the feeling creeping into his chest, the thrill of the unknown, the electric charge of an unsolved puzzle. But somewhere beneath the confidence, the adrenaline, there was doubt. 1 hour. That was barely enough time to understand a crime, let alone solve it. What if this time the clock ran out before he could? He shook the thought away. There was no room for doubt. Not now. The cab lurched forward, speeding toward Blackwood Museum. Whatever had happened there, whatever mystery was waiting for him behind those locked doors, Jack was going to solve it. The Blackwood Museum loomed ahead, its grand facade glistening under the streetlights. Jack stepped out of the cab, the urgency in his chest growing sharper. Inside, the place was a hive of chaos. Security guards rushed between halls, whispering in tense voices. The curator, a frazzled woman with graying hair, was wringing her hands as officers questioned her. And then, there was the vault. Jack strode past the red velvet ropes, past the murmuring voices, straight into the heart of the crime scene. The room was pristine, untouched, no broken locks, no signs of forced entry. And yet, the Aurelia diamond, a priceless, one-of-a-kind gem, was gone. Jack's gaze swept the vault door. It stood sealed shut, unbroken. The security system log showed a 5-minute window, exactly 5 minutes where all alarms had mysteriously gone silent, just long enough for the thief to strike. But that was the problem. The vault was never opened. Jack's fingers skimmed over the cold steel door. "Impossible," he murmured. Even the best safecrackers in the world needed more than 5 minutes. And yet, the diamond had vanished. A guard cleared his throat behind him. "That's not even the strangest part," he muttered. Jack turned. "There's something stranger than an unbreakable vault being broken into." The guard nodded toward the inside of the vault. "Look for yourself." Jack stepped closer and peered in. There, resting on the smooth velvet cushion where the Aurelia diamond should have been, was a single white glove. Jack's pulse quickened. The fabric was delicate, pristine, untouched by dust, perfectly placed. A glove, left inside a vault that was never opened. It made no sense. Jack tilted his head, flipping open his notebook. "Who does it belong to?" The guard shrugged. "No one knows. There's no fingerprints, no fibers, just a glove where a diamond should be." Jack exhaled slowly. A thief who left no trace, a crime scene with no entry, and a single object that shouldn't exist. He smiled slightly. Now this was a mystery. Jack leaned against the museum's cold marble railing, his notebook open, pencil poised. 4 suspects. 4 possible motives. One of them had pulled off the impossible. He let his eyes drift across the grand hall, taking in the tense figures scattered throughout the room. They all looked calm. Too calm. But Jack knew better. Calm was the mask people wore when they were hiding something. Victor Langley. The billionaire stood near the exhibit displays, hands tucked neatly into the pockets of his tailored suit. A man used to getting what he wanted, and yet, at the last auction, he had lost. The Aurelia diamond had slipped through his fingers, and now it was missing. Jack watched as Langley spoke in smooth, measured tones to an officer. Alibi. A business dinner. Dozens of witnesses, plenty of proof. Too perfect. A man like Langley did not like to lose. And if he could not buy the diamond, maybe he had found another way to claim it. Sophia Grant. Jack shifted his attention to the woman standing near the security consoles, arms crossed, her sharp eyes scanning every piece of data. The woman who had designed the vault. She knew its weaknesses, knew how to bypass its layers of security. But when Jack had questioned her earlier, her answers had been clipped, defensive. "The vault is impenetrable," she had said. "No one could get in without me knowing." But that was the problem, was it not? Someone had. Inside job? Maybe. But Jack had the feeling she was hiding something else. Nathaniel Brooks, the illusionist, the master of deception. He was leaning against a pillar now, watching the investigation unfold with a half smirk, as if he were enjoying the show. Jack had seen his kind before. People who lived for the art of misdirection. Nathaniel had performed a magic show just an hour before the crime, close enough to be in the area. And an illusionist? That was exactly the kind of person who could make a diamond disappear without a trace. But was it too obvious? Jack's pencil tapped against his notebook. He had seen plenty of magicians before. The best tricks weren't the ones that made you look. They were the ones that made you look the wrong way. Professor Alden Cross, last on the list. An older man, dressed in a neatly pressed brown suit, glasses perched low on his nose. He was a scholar, not a thief. Or so he wanted everyone to believe. Jack had already confirmed that Cross had access to the vault earlier that day. Just a lecture. Just research. Just looking. But the way he spoke about the diamond. The Aurelia diamond has a long and fascinating history. If one were to truly study it, they'd understand that its real value is not in its worth, but in the secrets it holds. Jack had heard that tone before, that obsession. He exhaled. 4 suspects, each with a motive, each with a way in. And yet, only one had pulled off the perfect crime. Jack flipped his notebook shut. Now he just had to figure out who. Jack crouched near the vault, the cold steel door reflecting the dim museum lights. He let his fingers hover over the smooth surface, his mind racing. The diamond was gone, but the crime scene was screaming with unanswered questions. The white glove. It sat inside the vault, resting on the velvet cushion where the Aurelia diamond should have been. The door had never been opened, so how had it gotten inside? A mistake? A message? Or a trick meant to confuse? Jack flipped open his notebook, sketching out the vault, the positioning, the clue. Nothing is ever left behind by accident. He turned to the security console. A faint, acrid scent lingered in the air. Burnt metal. Not strong, but unmistakable. Something had overloaded, shorted out. Was this how the thief had disabled the alarms? But if that was the case, why only for 5 minutes? Then there was the surveillance footage. Jack watched it on loop, eyes narrowed. The museum cameras had picked up every second of movement, except for one moment. A single frame, a brief flicker, a flash of light where there should have been none. A reflection. But of what? A glass case? A mirror? Or was someone standing where they should not have been? Jack rewound it, pausing. A figure, but no clear face. The thief had been here. He was sure of it. But somehow, the camera had been deceived. And then came the witness statement. A man walked in, the night guard had said, shaking his head. Tall, dark coat, moving quick. But he never left. Jack's pencil stilled on the page. Never left. If that was true, then the thief was still here. Somewhere. Watching. But the most curious clue? The one that made Jack's pulse quicken? A torn train ticket, discarded near the museum's back exit. A ticket for a departure in exactly 1 hour. The thief had a plan. A getaway already in motion. Jack's eyes darkened. He wasn't just solving a mystery, he was running out of time. But this case wasn't just about the real clues. It was also about the distractions. Sophia Grant's access logs looked like a break-in attempt, but were just part of an automated system check. A coincidence. Victor Langley's dinner alibi? Ironclad. Until you realized his assistant had vanished for 20 minutes. But was that proof of guilt? Or just another loose thread? Nathaniel Brooks? His illusionist reputation made him look guilty? Too guilty? A perfect fit for the crime. And yet, wasn't that the best kind of misdirection? Jack flipped his notebook shut. A trick only worked when the audience was looking in the wrong direction. He just had to figure out where. Jack's eyes flicked to the clock. 54 minutes left. The museum's grand hall buzzed with tension, security guards on edge, police officers scanning through footage. But Jack had no time to stand still. The thief was still close. He knew it. He started with the vault. The logs showed a 5-minute security failure. Nothing before, nothing after. But something was wrong. The tampering had come from outside the system. A manual override. Someone had not hacked in. They had tricked the system into thinking nothing was wrong. Sophia Grant frowned as she peered over Jack's shoulder at the data. "That's impossible," she muttered. "The system wouldn't just reset itself." Jack's pencil tapped against his notebook. "Unless someone made it." He turned sharply, moving toward the suspects. Interrogations. Victor Langley leaned against a pillar, arms crossed, watching Jack with an amused expression. "Are you going to accuse me now, boy detective?" Jack ignored the taunt. "Where was your assistant during dinner?" Langley's smile flickered, just for a second. A crack. "She stepped out. Something about a personal call. I didn't track her every move." Jack made a note. A personal call? Or a window of time to do something else? Sophia Grant. If someone tampered with the system, how would they do it without leaving a trace? She sighed, arms folded. They'd need a device. A temporary jammer, maybe. Something that kills the signal without triggering an alarm. Jack's pencil scratched against the page. Burnt metal. The faint scent near the console. That was it. Someone had used a signal scrambler. But why? Then, Nathaniel Brooks. Jack studied the magician carefully. "You were near the museum tonight." Nathaniel smirked. "I perform near a lot of places, detective. You'll have to be more specific." Jack held up the train ticket. "You ever take this line?" Nathaniel's smile didn't waver, but Jack saw the shift. Just a flicker in his eyes, a second too long before answering. "Not recently," he said smoothly. Too smooth. Jack flipped his notebook shut. "That's a shame. Because I think the person who stole the Aurelia diamond is still planning to take that train." The room went silent. Jack tapped the torn train ticket against his palm. Whoever stole the diamond didn't just vanish into thin air. They planned to leave on a train that's departing in... He checked his watch. 40 minutes. Silence. Then a voice. "That's impossible," Professor Aldencross said, his brow furrowing. "How would they have even gotten the diamond out of the vault?" Jack turned back to the steel chamber. That was the final piece. He moved to the velvet cushion, kneeling down, running his fingers over the edges. It looked solid. But when he pressed a little harder, click. The fabric shifted. Jack's pulse quickened. He pulled back the material, revealing something that should not exist. A false bottom. "The vault was never opened," Jack murmured, voice barely above a whisper. "Because the thief didn't need to open it. They took the diamond from below." He exhaled sharply, heart pounding. That was it. That was how the impossible had been done. The thief had never entered the vault at all. Jack shot up, snapping his notebook closed. 39 minutes left. Now he just needed to find them. The Blackwood Museum was a fortress of history, a maze of corridors lined with artifacts that had outlived empires. The grand vaulted ceilings loomed high above, shadowed by flickering chandeliers. Massive marble columns stood like silent sentinels, watching over relics from lost civilizations. Tonight, however, it was not history being preserved here. Tonight, it was a crime scene. Jack's footsteps echoed against the polished floors as he moved through the dimly lit exhibits. 38 minutes left. He had been here long enough to know that secrets were buried in places people rarely looked. The museum was more than just a collection of valuables. It was a puzzle in itself. Somewhere in these halls, the thief had hidden the Aurelia diamond. But Jack wasn't just looking for the diamond anymore. He was looking for an escape route. He reached the main entrance, his gaze shifting toward the large clock tower just beyond the museum gates. It stood tall and unyielding, its iron hands moving steadily forward. If someone wanted a high vantage point to watch the chaos unfold, that would be the place. Jack made a mental note. The clock tower wasn't just a landmark. It was a possible destination. His eyes moved next to the train station. A few blocks away, beyond the museum walls, the city's railway hub bustled with travelers, unaware that one of them might be carrying a stolen diamond worth millions. Jack's fingers tightened around his notebook. A thief who planned this well wouldn't just run. They had a schedule, a route, the train ticket, departure in 37 minutes. If Jack didn't act fast, he wouldn't just lose the case. He'd lose the only chance to stop the thief before they vanished. A new urgency pushed him forward. He took one last look at the museum, at the towering walls and hidden corners where deception had thrived tonight. The crime had been committed here. But the chase, that was about to begin elsewhere. Jack exhaled, tucking his notebook away. 36 minutes left, and the game was far from over. Jack barely made it 3 steps toward the museum exit before he heard the familiar voice behind him. Wait, don't move. I need a good shot of this. He sighed. Olivia. The sharp-witted journalist stood a few feet away, phone held high, recording everything. Her livestream audience, thousands of mystery fanatics tuning in from around the world, was hanging on her every word. She gave a dramatic wave to the camera. All right, folks, you're witnessing history in the making. Little Jack, boy genius, is on the trail of a master thief. Will he crack the case, or will the diamond be lost forever? Place your bets now. Jack shot her a glare. This isn't a game, Olivia. Tell that to the thief, she quipped, flipping her phone around to check the comments. Okay, we've got theories coming in. It was definitely the illusionist. Ooh, someone else says, look for hidden compartments, which, by the way, Jack already did. She glanced up at him. See? You've got an entire detective squad helping you. Jack didn't stop walking. I don't need help. I need time. Well, you've got 34 minutes. She jogged to keep up. So, any chance you actually tell me what's happening before I have to piece it together myself? Jack hesitated. Olivia was loud, sarcastic, and had a way of turning crime scenes into entertainment. But she was also smart. She caught on to details that most people ignored. And when Jack figured this out, she could get the message out faster than anyone. He exhaled. Fine. Here's what we know. As they moved through the museum, Jack laid out the facts: the impossible vault, the false bottom, the burnt metal, the train ticket. Olivia listened, surprisingly focused. So, she said, tucking her phone into her jacket, we've got a thief who never opened the vault, a train that leaves in... She checked her watch. 33 minutes, and a magician with an alibi that's a little too neat. She grinned. Yeah, this is getting good. Jack picked up his pace. We need to move. She smirked. Oh, I'm coming with you, and so is my audience. She pulled out her phone again. All right, internet detectives. We're hunting down a thief in real time. Stay tuned, because Jack either solves this mystery, or we all get to watch him miss the train. Jack shook his head. 32 minutes left, and now, the whole world was watching. Jack's mind had been running through possibilities, eliminating one suspect at a time. The collector? Too desperate, but not reckless enough. The historian? Too fascinated with the diamond to risk stealing it. The security expert? She knew how to break the system, but she didn't. Which left one man, Nathaniel Brooks. Jack's fingers curled around his pocket watch as he stared across the museum floor at the illusionist, who was still lingering near the exhibits, watching the chaos unfold. That was the first sign. Thieves run. They don't stay to admire their work. Jack approached, notebook in hand. 28 minutes left. Nathaniel's lips curled into a slow smile. Ah, the detective. Here to accuse me of sorcery? Jack tilted his head. Not quite, but I would like to know why you're still here. Nathaniel chuckled. Wouldn't leaving now make me look suspicious? Jack studied him carefully. Everything about Nathaniel was performance. The way he spoke, the way he moved. A magician never revealed his tricks. And that was why Jack knew. You made us look at the wrong thing, Jack murmured. That's what illusionists do. Nathaniel's expression barely flickered. Is that so? Jack nodded, flipping his notebook open. You see, the glove in the vault? A trick. Something to make us focus on the inside, when the real trick was happening outside. Nathaniel adjusted his cuffs. Go on, detective. I do love a good theory. Jack held up his notebook, showing a quick sketch of the vault's hidden panel. I checked the blueprints. The vault wasn't opened from the front. It was accessed from below. And you didn't even need to be inside. Nathaniel raised a brow. Intriguing. But how did I get the glove in there, then? Jack exhaled, his voice steady. A thin mechanical arm. Something you could slide through the hidden panel, place the glove on the cushion, and retract it, all while never stepping inside. Nathaniel gave a slow clap. Impressive. You should consider a career in stage magic. Jack wasn't done. He flipped to the next page, revealing another sketch, this one of a museum artifact. The diamond isn't gone, Jack said. It's still here, hidden in an exhibit, disguised as something nobody would question. Nathaniel's smirk faded. Jack had him. Nathaniel had pulled off the perfect illusion, but illusions only lasted until someone saw through them. And Jack just had. 25 minutes left. It was time to find the diamond. Jack's mind snapped the final pieces into place. Nathaniel wasn't leaving, he was blending in. He turned sharply, scanning the museum floor. People were filing out. Visitors, officers, staff. Somewhere in that moving crowd, the illusionist was walking away, hiding in plain sight. Jack's pulse pounded. 23 minutes left. He bolted toward Olivia. He's still here. She blinked. Wait. What? The train ticket was a distraction. He never planned to use it. Jack's eyes swept the crowd. One of these people was Nathaniel. But which one? Olivia cursed, lifting her phone. All right, internet detectives, we are officially in pursuit. Jack's gaze darted from face to face. Security guards, museum guests, even a few journalists. And then, his eyes locked onto a man near the entrance, a museum curator. Glasses, a coat, a hat pulled low. Jack's breath hitched. Nathaniel, not escaping, acting. Jack took off. Stop him! The moment their eyes met, Nathaniel ran. The chase tore through the museum, past towering statues and fragile glass displays. Jack ducked under a security barrier, vaulting over a marble bench. Olivia was close behind, breathless, camera shaking as she streamed the pursuit. Guys, this is happening live. Jack is literally chasing a master thief through a museum right now. Nathaniel was fast, weaving through the exhibits with the ease of a man who had studied the layout. But Jack had spent his entire life chasing puzzles. 20 minutes left. Nathaniel sprinted toward the grand staircase leading up to the clock tower. Jack didn't hesitate. He followed. The moment Nathaniel burst through the tower door, Jack knew. This was it. A long spiral staircase, winding upward. One way in, no way out. Jack slowed his steps, breathing steady. The only sound was the rhythmic tick, tick, tick of the massive gears turning above. Nathaniel stood near the window, hands raised in surrender. But Jack wasn't fooled. "You're not out of tricks," Jack said, voice calm. "So go on. Show me your final act." Nathaniel smirked. "Gladly." He reached into his coat and pulled something small and round. A pocket watch. Jack's stomach flipped. "That's it," he murmured. Nathaniel twirled the watch between his fingers. "Beautiful, isn't it?" A perfect replica of the one in the museum's collection. Jack took a slow step forward. "Number, not a replica. A disguise." Nathaniel's smirk deepened. "Took you long enough." Jack exhaled. That was the trick. The Aurelia diamond was never in a vault. It was never smuggled out. It had been in plain sight the whole time, hidden inside a fake exhibit piece. Jack flicked his pocket watch open, the steady ticking filling the air. "You made one mistake," he said. Nathaniel arched a brow. "Did I?" Jack's smirk matched his own. "You should have left when you had the chance." Nathaniel moved. Jack lunged. The two crashed against the wall, the pocket watch slipping from Nathaniel's fingers. It clattered onto the floor, popping open, and nestled inside the hollow casing, gleaming in the dim light. The Aurelia diamond. Nathaniel's shoulders slumped. Game over. Jack turned to Olivia, breathing hard. She grinned, lifting her phone. "All right, detectives. What was the thief's biggest mistake?" The comments were already rolling in. Jack finally smiled. 17 minutes left. Plenty of time. Nathaniel Brooks had played his last trick. Jack stood over the fallen pocket watch, its hidden compartment blown wide open. Inside, the Aurelia diamond gleamed under the flickering clock tower lights. The heist had been perfect, until it wasn't. Nathaniel exhaled, rolling onto his back with a wry smile. "You really don't let things go, do you?" Jack scooped up the watch, tucking it into his pocket. "Not when the case is this good." A shout echoed from below. Museum security was closing in. Nathaniel sat up, dusting himself off. "Well, detective, it's been fun." Jack raised a brow. "You're acting like you still have an escape plan." Nathaniel's smirk didn't falter. He always had a plan. And then, he moved. Fast. Jack lunged, but Nathaniel was already bolting for the staircase. He took the steps 2 at a time, vanishing through the side door, disappearing into the dark streets. For half a second, Jack stood frozen. Then, his gaze snapped to Olivia. "The train," he said. "He's still going for the train." They ran. Down the spiral steps, through the museum's main hall, out into the city night. Jack's heart pounded as he spotted the station in the distance. The train was already there, engine humming, smoke curling into the cold air. It was leaving in seconds, and so was Nathaniel. Jack sprinted, weaving between people on the platform. He saw Nathaniel slip into the last train car, coat whipping behind him. Jack jumped. His hands caught the metal railing, his feet barely finding the ledge. The train lurched forward, but Jack pulled himself up, swinging into the cabin. Nathaniel turned, eyes widening. Jack smirked. "Going somewhere?" The train picked up speed, the city blurring past. Nathaniel lunged, but Jack was faster. He grabbed the magician's arm, twisting him down into the seat. For the first time, Nathaniel sighed in defeat. "All right, fine. No need to be dramatic about it." Jack pulled out his pocket watch, flicking it open. 11 minutes left. He looked up at Olivia, who had finally caught up to them, breathless but grinning. "That's plenty of time." Nathaniel let out a low chuckle. "So, what happens now?" Jack gestured toward the station. Police officers were already waiting at the next stop. Nathaniel sighed. "Figures. Game over." Jack leaned back, the stolen diamond safe in his coat pocket. The museum would get its prize back, and Nathaniel Brooks would be behind bars. But something nagged at Jack's mind, something unfinished. Olivia noticed. "What?" Jack exhaled, staring at the city lights outside the window. "This was too easy." She snorted. "Easy? We literally had to chase him through a museum, up a clock tower, and onto a moving train." Jack nodded slowly. "Exactly." Nathaniel smirked. "You're starting to get it, aren't you?" Jack turned to him, eyes narrowing. This wasn't just about the diamond, was it? Nathaniel leaned back, hands still cuffed, but his smile returned. "Oh, detective," he murmured. This was just the opening act. The train rattled forward, taking them toward the next stop, toward the next case. Jack flicked his pocket watch shut. He had won this round, but something told him the real game was just beginning.
Did you figure it out before me? Let me know in the comments. Could you have caught the thief in time? Drop your theories below. Want more impossible cases? Subscribe and join Jack on his next mystery.